An artist from Iran is using the Rose Kennedy Greenway as his canvas for a new mural called Spaces of Hope. The work by Mahdi Ghadyanloo is his first project in the United States. Spreading over the wall of an air intake building near Dewey Square, this will be the first mural to be curated entirely by the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy.
The name is Spaces of Hope. I used this name because of the book, The Spaces of Hope, and it talks about how to bring hope and positivity to bad neighborhoods. And I really like the content of this book, and that's what I'm doing in Iran, here, and everywhere that I'm doing public art projects. I'm painting because I can't find any other media that I have a little talent in that to talk about my feeling, my ideas, my perception about life, and I found this media very good.
To tell us more about the public art is the Chief of Staff for the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy, Michael Nichols. Thank you very much for being with us, Michael.
Thanks, Chris.
First of all, this is the first project that the Greenway has entirely curated, and I guess you have a plan here. So what is this going to be like down the line?
Yeah, each of the first 4 murals that we did in Dewey Square Park, we partnered with local art institutions, give you an opportunity to see a dynamic artist for free on the Greenway, and then to learn more about that artist at a partner institution. However, about 2 years ago, we hired a full-time public art curator for the Greenway, and sort of to bring him, Lucas Cowan, to bring him into the swing of things, wanted to have a year where he could curate the mural himself. We still have some programmatic partnering that we're doing with Lesley University as well as UMass Dartmouth, where there'll be different print shows for the mural artists where you can go to those universities and see those. But this is the first time where we're curating the mural ourselves, and it's actually the kickoff project of a full year of a curatorial theme on playful perspective. So sort of vantage point changing, visual pieces, both 2D in the case of the mural or 3D, where I think you can interact with them in ways that kind of are meant to alter your perspective.
Well, playful perspectives, that seems very much to characterize the work of the artist of this particular mural, Mahdi Ghadyanloo. Tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Mahdi's 35 years old and actually was initially a farmer in his native Iran. Went to art school, actually also to movie school, and sort of had a number of different influences that led him to seek out painting. And so the city of Tehran, during sort of a more moderate government, I guess you could say, was looking for artists to paint non-political, non-propagandist murals to beautify the city of Tehran. There was a contest for sort of mostly young artists who would be potentially interested in doing that. And Mahdi won that competition with 10 submissions. The city commissioned him to paint all 10 and then eventually another 90. And his sort of, again, very perspective altering, surrealist, paintings that have a number of sort of very optimistic themes, brought him to sort of, renown within sort of his native, Tehran, and then has moved on to painting in London, and now for the first time in the United States on the Greenway.
Well, some of these subjects, they look like pretty ordinary, everyday life kinds of things, people on bikes, and at the same time, you have this flat surface where you seem to see shadows and slanted perspectives. So I guess that's one of the things you're looking for here.
Right, yeah, I mean, I think each of our murals has brought a little something different. We've wanted to kind of expose the public to abstract art or street art or conceptual art. And now with Mahdi, sort of this Trompe l'oeil style of, on a 2-dimensional surface, seemingly you're seeing 3-dimensional scenes taking place. And so on a number of his past works, you see, again, in Tehran, where, as Mahdi tells the story, it's smog, and sort of infested, and it's a number of drab walls. And so he wanted to create these optimistic scenes where you look up and where the background might be, gray or foggy, you see this bright, beautiful blue sky with people hanging out their windows or with people, motioning to those on the street below. And I think, that was something that resonated with our curator, seeing these sort of, happy, vibrant scenes and bringing them right to the heart of the city.
We're talking with Michael Nichols from the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy. It occurred to me that what he's doing with these flat walls is, I guess, what good architects try to do with a building. You don't want it to look too, bulky and blocky. So I guess you want to break it up a bit, and that's what's happening here too.
Absolutely. I mean, as many know, the Greenway Conservancy, the nonprofit that manages the park, inherited the park from the the state as built, from the Big Dig project about, 7.5, 8 years ago. So we inherited this large gray structure that in many ways bisects the park. I mean, there are no other large structures throughout the 1.5 mile long greenway. And yet here in Dewey Square, in one of our focal point parts of the park, you have this large 76 by 70 foot wall that until the mural program began, really kind of created a division between the parts of the park. And so I think this being our 5th mural, and we change them out each fall, that over these 4 years now, the murals really kind of bring to life a space that might not be alive anyway. And then I don't know that anybody's doing it as well as this artist is doing it in terms of actually taking these sort of two-dimensional surfaces and making them really kind of pop and seem like things are kind of... And I think while we haven't released the design for this piece yet, I think when people see it, they're going to realize that that once again he's found a way to make this surface seem like it's a living part of the city.
He's turning a wall into a window of perception, but when people get into that frame, they look at what's around them on the greenway, and I guess that becomes part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, Dewey Square is in many ways probably the most alive part of the park. I mean, we have activities that stretch in every part of the park, but in Dewey Square we've got, weekly block parties throughout the summer, our food truck program, our market program. We've done beer festivals. We just recently had the Arlington International Film Festival. So there's so many different types of activities that are happening in that park. And I think sort of this type of scene that you see and that this artist is trying to portray on the mural, which as he's described it, the mural is called Spaces of Hope. It's meant to symbolize, the number of people that come through South Station each day and move into another part of the city to work, to seek to capitalize on their hopes and dreams, and then to have the mural kind of be evocative of that feeling while also there's such a vibrant and dynamic park down beneath it. I think is a neat pairing for us to be able to offer this year.
You mentioned some of the events going on along the Greenway. Any sense about whether more people are coming out there, coming to roost on the Greenway?
They certainly are. It's difficult since we don't have sort of turnstiles and walls and doors to capture the true spirit of the uptick, but we have 4 metrics that we are able to measure attendance by. Food truck patrons, carousel riders, event attendees, and Wi-Fi logins. And on those 4 metrics, we've gone from 96,000 visitors 7 years ago to 1.2 million this year. And so there's a very clear uptick in the number of people that are coming out for just those 4 areas. And that doesn't count those that come and passively enjoy the park, read a book, splash in the water fountains, or most recently come to see the public art.
Well, the other thing that's going to happen here, rippling out, is you're going to have all these photos on social media. You can't stop it, and it's probably a nice thing, but what does that do for the Greenway?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly welcome it. I mean, I think the Greenway is, we sort of have joked around the office that, the Greenway is Boston's least historic park. And in a city where you have these dynamic historic parks, the Greenway was built to be something very different. It's a contemporary urban park, a signature park for Boston, where the types of activities that are happening there are, atypical for other parks around the city. And so one of the many ways that I think we've really invested in trying to interact with the public is through social media. And so when we brought the Eckelman project last year, we initiated just a hashtag Greenway Art, where people could upload their own pictures of our different art offerings. And at current, we've got 8 pieces in the park, 4 by local artists, 2 by national artists, and 2 by international artists. And people want to capture those. They want to capture themselves with them. The art is accessible. You can walk up to it. You can touch it. And there's been over 2,000 pictures uploaded in just the last year alone of people interacting with our art using that hashtag. So I think we see it as just another way to help people interact with what we're doing on the Greenway.
Well, I know you're going to have more details about things in the future, so if people want to check that out, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so rosekennedygreenway.org is probably the best way to check out our different offerings. There's special pages right on the front page of the site dedicated to the new mural, the Spaces of Hope mural.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Michael Nichols from the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy.